Curtis, and today I'm visiting a friend of mine and a neighbor of mine, Roger Vars, and he has a very special job that he's going to tell you about. Hi, Roger.
Hi.
You know, you told me that you do this very unique thing here in your old age.
Yeah, this is my part-time job that I took on during my retirement, and it's a sort of an interesting job. And
what is it called? What is this job called, Roger?
This job is, the title of the job, the classification of the job is the Writing Instrument Repair Specialist, which takes care of all the expensive pens that Pilot makes, and which is the Namiki line.
I guess we better tell everybody where we are. We're at Pilot Pen, and we're in Trumbull, right? And this is the place where all these very classy-looking museum-quality pens come and get repaired, and then they go all over the country, all over the world?
They go all over the world, but I think we repair them mostly for the United States, although we do get some jobs from France, and we do get a couple sent here from Australia, and a lot from Canada, and a few from Puerto Rico. But they send them back up here to be repaired.
But before we get into this, I want Roger to tell you a little bit about himself, because I know that for years you taught school, didn't you?
Yes, I taught. I was a mason by trade, and I taught masonry in a technical school in Bridgeport. And then I left there early because I had a little heart problem.
No kidding, you never told me about that. And?
I had cardiac arrest, so I decided to...
Was the kids, you think?
It's hard to say. It could be me, the kids, or the administration. It depends on how you look at it. But it was cholesterol buildup in my...
Well, that's a pretty common American problem. So when you stopped doing the high school teaching, then you did a lot of gardening. I know aren't you a very active part of the men's garden club in Bridgeport? I know you are.
I'm a member of the men's garden club in Bridgeport, which runs the... I don't do very much there, but the men do a lot of work over at the Botanical Gardens in Beardsley Park in Bridgeport.
But it was through that interest that you had about the plants that you watched our television show that I've been doing, because sometimes we do shows on Beardsley Zoo. We've done things on the person did all the daylilies, and so through that interest, you told me about this thing that you've been doing.
Right. I also belong to the Orchid Society, Connecticut Orchid Society.
That's
also.
Right.
And I have quite a few orchids that I've grown and a few that I've killed.
So that one day you were telling me about this is something you've been doing recently. I don't understand how you...
I just happened to get this because a friend of mine, he and I are both on the Board of Governors at Pequannock Yacht Club. And he says, I got a nice little part-time job for you, so why don't you take a look at it? So I did, and I got interviewed, and then they sent me for a physical, an extensive physical.
But you passed after
I passed the physical, and here I am. So now I'm just basically working about 3 days a week, repairing all the writing instruments on the higher-priced ones. They don't repair the least expensive ones.
Let me ask you a very, very foolish question. I mean, Pilot Pen is here in our area, Fairfield County, and everybody just thinks of it in terms of these inexpensive pens that are readily available. So we're not talking about that at all, are we?
We're not talking about your average high school user pen.
Okay.
We're talking about writing instruments. In fact, most of the people that buy these pens are professional people, and they use them extensively, and they wear them out, and they break them down, and they clog them with so many hours of use that they send them back, and I repair them, clean them, repair the nibs, and recondition them, and back they go.
I can't imagine, you told me the value of the pens run from about $100 to $10,000 is what you told me.
Well, about $100 to about $6,000 is the one. Then there's a few collector's items that might run higher than that.
But I can't imagine that people use these things in every day, but you're telling me they do. They use them. These professional people use them. They carry them in their...
They actually do. In fact, I'll tell you a little story if you want to hear it.
Okay.
I went out to Long Island with my boat, and was on my boat, and I was coming back from the casino up in
part of the
Foxwoods on the ferry, and we didn't have a ride back because the ferry stopped running at a certain hour. So I asked this lady, I says, could you take me back to my boat? And she says, okay. So she took me back to the boat. Of course, I owed her a cocktail. I give her a cocktail on the boat, and I told her where I worked. She says, well, I have one of your silver Namiki pens, and she does television work out there, by the way.
Good, okay.
I forget her name at this particular time.
I don't have one of those silver even. And she just happened to have one, and you just happened to...
She just happened to have one of our silver pens, which is quite unusual to
Yeah.
bump into somebody that has one of your pens.
Now, I saw a silver pen that has a Japanese motif on it. Is that what we're talking about? It's very exquisite. Oh, that's one of the more...
The Sterling
Saw that pen.
section of them, they have about, I think there's 4, maybe 5, but I think there's 4 basic motifs on the pens.
Well, actually, I have a beautiful cover. Somehow we could show this to the audience. I don't know if we could do it this minute, but that just gives them some idea of the quality and the handwork. Some of these pens are hand-painted. I mean, they have lacquered finishes with gold and silver. What did you say, it was sterling?
It was sterling.
I mean, they're beautiful things. They're collectibles, but they're museum quality. And so they come here from all over the country, you're saying, to be fixed. Well, what types of things are you fixing, for instance?
Basically, I repair primarily the fountain pen. The fountain pen seems to have the most problems of ink probably clogging in it a little bit.
So that was the old...
Because they dry up, because they use them so many times, and the ink gets a little blockage in it, so I take them back here and recondition them, open up the nibs a little bit. And
Do you also have ballpoint pens with the Namiki pens?
they also have ballpoint, rolling ball, and ballpoint. Now, here's the line I was just telling you about. See the 4 different varieties here? Run up and get it. Those are the sterling. That's the sterling collection, which is quite unique. But the only thing is, you got to polish them more often
That's true.
because silver does tend to tarnish a little bit.
Well, I never, till you mentioned this to me, realized that there was this very high-end, hand-painted pen, and it comes from Japan. Well, I was wondering if we could go into your work area, or if you could take something apart for us and show us what you actually do here 2.5 days when you're sitting serenely, which you're not usually very serene.
Beside looking at the
At the 4 walls?
magazine pictures.
Oh, magazine pictures. See if you could put a setup together and show us what some of the things that you do
we can
here.
do that very nicely.
Good, thanks. Roger, so tell me about some of this magic that you do here.
Well, I'm going to show you, or you call it magic, but it's just a question of learning how the pen fits together and how it comes apart and some of the problems that might occur with a pen. Now, I'm going to show you on this vanishing point line, and I want to show you some of the colors that the vanishing point comes in, first of all.
What do you mean colors? Outside, exterior to it?
Exterior colors on the vanishing point. Now we have
The
the
rose.
red, the blue, the green, they call it hunter green, what they call a black and silver, and then the black matte.
Yeah, I like it.
Now, the black matte is probably the most popular one. And for some reason or other or not, I like the green the best, but I mean, for some reason or other, we seem to sell most of the black matte. Next one would probably be the black and silver.
Well, what happens with them when you get them?
When I get them, first of all, they're guaranteed for life.
Oh, really?
That's probably the most important part of the whole line here. Everything is guaranteed for lifetime.
So they
guaranteed.
send them back
So
to pilot?
any problem they have whatsoever, it's like you going back to the doctor. If he didn't stitch you up right,
Yeah, right.
you go back and we replace the part, or we fix the nib, or we replace anything that needs to be done on the pen.
So what usually is the problem with
Okay,
these things?
first of all, when I first get the pen, I would take it apart, and that's the barrel, by the way. Looks like the cap, but it's the barrel. And this part is the cap.
Okay, really? That looks like the-
Now, and that's, of course, is your nib. They're a gold nib, 14-karat gold nib. Now, in this particular one, we have what they call IC50, which is a throwaway cartridge, which is loaded with ink. Now, when you first put these in, see, now, if they hard, see how I'm pulling on it? It's a little
Right.
difficult coming out.
You guys squirt that a lot?
I can generally pull this out, but if I have a problem with it, I go like this with that tool and go like this with the other tool. And I pull,
Okay.
and it comes out. But I'm not going to do that because I think I can pull this one out by my hand, see? It comes out a little, sometimes they've been in there so long, they like stick in there a little bit. Now, this is ink that you just throw this cartridge away after the ink has been used.
Okay.
And so when I test this now, I'll take this pen and I'll soak this nib, then I put it into an ultrasonic machine, and I test it again, and then I got to clean it again before I send it back.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a few operations, and it doesn't always happen as easy as it sounds.
So it's mostly the nib or the cartridge that gets clogged?
The nib, people have this, so ink builds up slowly on the nib. And if ink slowly builds up on the nib, then it stops the ink from flowing down to the tip. And then and people don't know how to clean them. They don't clean them as often as they should. So I get them here, they send them back to me, I clean them. Sometimes I have to adjust the nib. And I also do this, let me take my knife out. I got a little pen knife. If the nib sticks, I just take the pen and stick it between the two tines right here. I generally put my glasses on when I do this.
This is nothing like doing masonry. Don't cut yourself here now.
Now, just stick that in there and just like wiggle it a little bit.
Oh, I
And
see.
that loosens up the tines, and it loosens up the sticky ink that's stuck in there. Then I put it back in the ultrasonic machine. And generally speaking, I test it, and if it works fine, with no drag, I test it for drag,
Okay.
see if it's scratchy, and
You
away
told
we
me,
go.
in a day, you told me, when you're here, you do about 12 pens a day.
On an average, I'll do about 12 pens a day.
So that many pens are coming back and forth for review, repair.
Right. They sold over 2,000 of this particular model. Not 2,000, 20,000.
I was gonna
Excuse
say.
me, 20,000. So
Right.
you know I'm getting
So you do 12, 36 about a week in fixing
on
and repair.
approximately, on an average, yeah.
Mhm, and
I've
just-
got a girl that does this, used to do this before me upstairs. Now, if I'm on vacation or I get overloaded, she'll do a few also.
Mhm.
In fact, she's pretty fast at it too.
What's this beautiful thing here, this wooden one?
This wooden one is actually, it's called, it's a maple, and it's made out of one piece of maple. And this is an older discontinued line, by the way, and they're probably going to be a collector's item eventually because nobody's going to have them.
I
You know what I
see.
mean? But that's a fountain pen also. And most of the people that send back pens are fountain pens. I don't get too many.
That's,
No, I don't get too many. For example, this is a rolling ball. Excuse me, this is a ballpoint, not a rolling ball. This is a ballpoint,
retractable ballpoint?
retractable ballpoint. So this one, the only thing that people send it back for is if we get they drop it and they chip the end,
And then what happens?
we give a new part.
Put a new part, you have parts for all that?
I have all the parts for that. If I don't have it, I order it from the warehouse and it comes down the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes a little flaking comes off over here on some of the lacquer if somebody abuses it a little bit. But generally speaking, if it doesn't look very obvious, like a dog bit the pen, I repair it for nothing. It's
Okay.
free.
But if it looks like somebody's
If it looks like somebody ran over it, I've had it where people have run over them with a car.
Right, imagine that could happen.
Yeah, and they drop them and they drop right over them with a car, and it's almost out of round. So then I have to say, hey, it wasn't normal usage of the pen.
So
then we have to charge them.
Mm-hmm. Have you fixed some of these pens for some important people?
Yeah, a few people. In fact, I think I've noticed some TV personalities that I've done for. I can't mention them, but I mean, we've done that, and I did one for a senator out in Nebraska, and we've done quite a few.
I bet.
And I think a lot of people that you wouldn't imagine have these pens, but they're very popular. Now, there's another one here I want to show you that has. This is the press plate. This has the press plate filler on it. This one you refill with ink every time. You don't throw this one away. You just press the plate. It's got a plunger on it. Not a plunger. It's got a collapsible tube on it. When you press it,
Okay.
then you suck the ink back in again.
Oh, I remember this from years ago.
Yeah, but sometimes, eventually, the rubber naturally wears out after years of use. It wears out, so they send it back, and when they send it back, we put a new one in and clean the pen at the same time.
So it's mostly replacing parts and then doing this ultrasonic cleaner and...
Right.
How about that big one in the background there?
Oh, this big one here
It's beauty.
is one of the top of the line for expense. And it has a different, this is called a red urushi. And it has,
Ooh, it's a big.
this
point.
nib is very expensive if you have to replace it, so you don't want to drop this or abuse it. And-
I
and
see.
So
So
you have,
just dropping it will do it?
if you drop this with the weight of the pen, it would bend the nib just ever so much. Sometimes